Welcome to our Saturday Simulcast / Coach's Corner. Familiar face David Wood joining us. Thank you to the Union Club Hotel, the 811 Bistro, for their sponsorship as well. Coach, about 8 days ago, things changed dramatically for Purdue and its trajectory on its basketball season. It lost to Fairleigh Dickinson in a game that obviously Purdue would love to replay. You don't get that chance in the NCAA tournament. That's what's disappointing. Now it's time to move on. We'll go back at least touch a little bit on some of the themes of that game. I mean, we've watched and talked about it as much as Purdue fans can bear to talk about it. It's such a difficult loss, but you have a situation where you got an FDU team with nothing to lose and a Purdue team that just, for lack of a better term, could not throw it in the ocean. And that combination in a basketball game, I think we talked off the air, college basketball is not a swim meet. I love that term. You've got to make plays. But looking at it through the lens of 8 days later, what are your takeaways at this point?
You can over-evaluate it sometimes,
right? Which I think we're doing,
of course. But to my way of thinking, I've said it before here. There's a difference between playing well and shooting well.
Yeah.
I certainly don't think Purdue played very well.
Yeah.
But the reason they lost is because they shot very, very poorly. There are a lot of people. I've heard some of the noise, and they're screaming about their defense. Well, that's the fewest number of points they gave up in a loss all year.
Yeah.
Which says to me it wasn't necessarily their defense, it was their offense. And you're in a single elimination tournament, and sometimes, and I don't know, I'm not. I think every year's different. I'm not one of those who says Purdue lost to this team last year and this team the year before. This tournament is a lot about matchups. But in a single elimination tournament, I think sometimes, as you said, Fairleigh Dickinson had nothing to lose. Purdue had everything to lose.
Yeah.
And I thought they played with a huge lack of confidence, especially in the second half, and especially shooting the ball.
Yeah.
Give Fairleigh Dickinson credit in this regard. They simply said that Ross-Ade was not going to beat them.
Yeah.
We'll guard him with three guys. We'll give up a dunk to somebody else. We'll give up a bunch. If Purdue makes threes, then Purdue's going to win. If Purdue doesn't make threes, then it's going to be a dogfight. And that was their plan. And for them, it worked to almost perfection. Good enough shooters. Couldn't find the basket. My saying is, they couldn't hit water standing in the boat.
Yeah. And they couldn't.
No, they couldn't. And it is a really mentally difficult thing. 100 years ago when I played, once in a while, I was the guy they didn't guard. And if the first shot or two goes in, now you're off to the races.
Yeah.
If the first shot or two doesn't go in, it really, really works on you mentally. It's like I play golf, but sometimes on the golf course, it's just not there, and it's impossible to fix that in the middle of the round. It's impossible to fix that mental block in the middle of the game. You go out the next day and shoot 200 shots and you get it figured out and you start feeling good about yourself. You can't fix it in the middle of the game. And, the last shot that Mason Gillis took was, I think, a great illustration. You're standing there, he's looking for some, it's like he didn't really want to shoot it.
No, it's game of hot potatoes.
And he shoots an air ball, and he, he's a better shooter than that.
Yeah.
High 30s from three, and that's not physical, that is mental. And they just, as a team, I thought that happens. That it is not a swim meet. You can't just, not a track meet where you line up and the fastest one wins. And I'm next to you, Alan, and your time in the 100-meter dash is 2 seconds faster than mine. Well, unless you trip and fall, I'm not gonna win that race.
Yeah.
And basketball's that way sometimes. And it certainly was that way for Purdue last week.
Yeah, I know you look at that from a coaching standpoint, and you try to put some other guys in the game. David Jenkins played 23 minutes, and David Jenkins did a lot of really good things this year. Again, it almost became for lack of a better term, an epidemic / pandemic. I mean, it was just across the board. I mean, you think about Jenkins and how he's played. Another example, 23 minutes, only gets 3 shots, but misses all 3. I mean, nothing flowed. When you're in that coaching situation, and Purdue did try some other combinations, and yet Matt Painter's talked all year long about trusting his guys. You can't just, in my view, you can't just say, oh, all of a sudden we're not trusting anymore. We're going to put our walk-ons in this game. I mean, that doesn't seem to be consistent with the way that Matt Painter is about.
No, and it is, as I say, it's hard in the middle of the game. You're searching for a combination. One of the things I remember thinking very early in the season with what I felt like was a solid group of Purdue shooters is that he'll find 1 or 2 every game that are on. Yeah. Well,
not this game.
No, not in this game. There was
in other games too.
Yeah. There have been some games. When you look at this at the overall performance of this team over the season, then I think one of the things you see is that a lot of people, me included, thought this would be a very, very good shooting team from 3, and as it turns out, it was a pretty average shooting team from 3 and significant below average against Fairleigh Dickinson. And I don't know how you blame Matt Painter for that. I've been a coach and watched my team 100 years ago. I had a really good team. The one thing they did really, really well was shoot the ball, and we played against a team that apparently hadn't scouted us because they played a tight 2-3 zone, letting us shoot it, and we shot as I recall 8 for 34 from 3.
Yeah.
And, the next night, I think we were pretty good, but that night we were awful. Yeah. And, it happens sometimes. And I know a lot of people get upset over that, but sometimes that's just basketball.
Yeah. And that's the hard thing to deal with. All right. So you've had to deal with difficult ends of seasons and as a coach, and we can't pretend to know exactly, but Matt Painter pretty well and what he's been about. How do you approach the off season? Because it will be a case, at least with some folks next year, that everybody's gonna be waiting around for the second week of March to see how this team can go no matter what it does in the regular season. How do you look at that and say we're gonna trudge on, so to speak, but also get yourself as much as ready for that next NCAA tournament?
I think it becomes you can't dwell on that. It becomes we got to get better today.
Yeah,
you got to get better today. And it's going to be up to individuals to get in the gym and get better and get in the weight room and get better. I think it's no secret if you watch Purdue. One guy in particular, Fletcher Lawyer. I think he's going to look a lot different next year with a full year in the weight room. He's going to be, I think that he and Braden Smith were so good early.
Yeah.
So good early that they just couldn't quite keep up that level of performance, but they're going to be better. And so as coaches, you evaluate what we did well, what we didn't do well. As players, they do the same thing. And so they're going to try to get better every day and go out and then, hypnotize them in March to believe, sometimes you just got to see some success to have the success. And is that a monkey on Purdue's back? Yeah, it is. And it's not going to leave until they have some significant success in March. 4 years ago was a long, long time ago, and people tend to forget that. If you're going to blame the coach for some of these failures, then you got to blame you got to give the coach credit for what happened 4 years ago, fluky, not them not getting in the Final Four. And you better look at the coach when you look at a Big Ten championship, a Big Ten tournament championship, and a number one seed from a team that simply wasn't in September. Those were unfathomable. Did I say that word right?
Yeah.
In September, they weren't. I mean, if you had told me in September that team would win the Big Ten by 3 games, I'd have thought you were smoking funny cigarettes. It's not. You can't look at that team and not understand, through your disappointment about Fairleigh Dickinson, not understand that this team for much of the season overachieved.
Yeah.
That's a credit to their players, and that's a credit to their coaches. And the fact that it didn't work out in March, okay, at least look at their total body of work and say, this was a really, really good season for Purdue basketball.
Yeah, hard to argue with that when you're looking at things from a reasonable lens. All right, when you look at this, the NCAA tournament right now, there are only, as we record, 8 teams. Right, we're down to 8.
Yes.
Every time we talk about this, and you even go back to 2019 in Purdue, Ryan Klein, Carson Edwards. Now, both those guys, older guys,
yes,
21, 22 years old, both shot out of their minds at times, or shot phenomenally well. You look at Marquise Noel. You look at even Hogard from Michigan State. I'm down the line. There's an older, physical. Braden Smith, you have to like his competitiveness. He just may not, I think he may have run out of gas a little bit. This is a long year. He didn't, this past off season, he spent much of the time, was in a boot over last summer. So my point is, you have to think you got that nucleus there. Now you got to figure out a way from a roster standpoint to backfill it, to make it what you want, but you've got a good place to start in the backcourt, I think.
No question. My experience, especially in college, was always that guys make their biggest improvements, their biggest jumps between their freshman and sophomore years.
Yeah.
They know what it's like now. Especially those 2 guards who've been through a lot this year, a big learning experience. They know what it's like. They know what to expect. They know what they have to do to improve their performance, and we'll see. But I would expect, especially those two freshman guards, to make significant positive steps going into their sophomore year. But you look at, like you talk about these 8 teams. You're right; they're veteran teams. I don't know if there are some that have outstanding young guys. But those young guys are pieces, not the leaders of that team statistically or otherwise. And I think it's going to be exciting to watch, because having watched some of these teams, wow, there are some very, very, very talented teams left in this tournament, even though
they're not seeded.
Even though the 4 number 1 seeds are gone. The 3 of the 4 number 2 seeds are gone.
Yeah.
2 of the 4 number 3 seeds are gone.
Yeah.
So what does the seeding really, really mean? Those men and women lock themselves in that room forever and ever, and I don't think it matters much at all what number is next to your name. And but just from a basketball fan standpoint, I think this is going to be an exciting 9 or 10 days, whatever it is left in this tournament.
Yeah, you got the first time in the history of the NCAA tournament that no number 1 seeds have made it to the Elite 8, I believe. Right. And yet some really interesting teams to watch. And yet that's where and we get to the transfer portal question, and Matt trying to backfill that roster. Don't know, there's other factors, NIL, everything else that it's hard to know exactly. And Purdue, by the way, did Tyrese Hunter, of course, Nigel Pack. I'm down the line. We're all kids that visited Purdue in the recruiting process and didn't come for whatever reason. NIL, we know, being one of them, and for Nigel Pack. My point is, as you look at this roster that Purdue has, and obviously the 7'4" question is whether Zach-Edey comes back. I get that, but you need to find a couple pieces. Still, it would be nice to find. Are you in the camp of a David Jenkins Jr. type with maybe a little bit more ability to handle the basketball? I mean, if you were going to wish list your guy to the optimal guy, you got Miles Colvin coming in, you have Camden Heide, guys that can get to the rim, at least we think, and we certainly know that Colvin's got some athletic ability and Heide does as well. But how do you look at that roster moving ahead if you were the general manager and had to do that? That's a dangerous thing, but.
Well, they have to get a point guard, whether it's a point guard that beats Braden Smith out, or a point guard that is capable of backing him up. I think that's an immediate need. Excuse me. The 7'4" question is a big one.
Yeah, no question.
That's a big one, but I think they have to get more athletic. They have to get. I think wings that can attack the rim at times. Purdue's offense was a little different with Zach-Edey playing through him, posting up, and one of the points that people make about getting guys that attack the rim as they get to the free throw line. And that's a good thing, but look at Purdue's free throw statistics, and they are off the charts. Made more, attempted more free throws. What is it?
Made more free throws
than the other team attempted. So, I think getting people to attack the rim puts defenses on their heels some, but it's not going to affect Purdue's free throw stats this year. But if Zach-Edey chooses not to return, then one of the things that's going to be really, really important in my mind is having athletic wings, players who can attack the rim. Their offense, if Zach-Edey doesn't return, their offense is going to change. I'm bad with names, but the
Trey Kaufman-Renn, obviously, and Caleb First are going to be, and that might not, in all seriousness, might not be the end of the world.
Oh no,
because these are two very talented players that need a chance to blossom. I mean, as great as Zach-Edey is, and any coach would welcome him back 100 times over. I get that, but those two guys, it still would have to be a little bit of a different type of basketball team, as we saw sometimes this year when those
correct
guys
and sometimes successfully and sometimes not as successfully. But athleticism, I think, will be something that they will look for at the guard position and at the wing position. But I think, as I say, I think you're right. I think Cam Heide, watching him in practice, wow, I think he's very, very athletic. How great a player is he? I don't know. We'll find out. Miles Colvin certainly has that reputation, and I've watched him play some, and I think he's going to be a great addition to Purdue basketball. But if I picked one thing, that would be it for me.
Yeah, I think that's a clear thing from that standpoint. All right, you are getting a chance to go to the Indiana State Championships today as a legendary high school coach as part of your career, but obviously, and I'm going to guess that Matt Painter and company will be watching as well. If Fiore Badunga, if I'm pronouncing his name right, from Kokomo in the finals, but talk about just the landscape of what you've seen of him, and I know everybody in the world is interested in him, so it's we get that from that standpoint. But talk about him, and also I don't know if you've had the chance to see Cannon Catchings play or Jack Benner or any of those guys, but talk about just the landscape of that state tournament and the opportunity, maybe from a recruiting standpoint, that Purdue will be in the mix for those guys.
Yeah, well, it'll be a who's who at the 4A game tonight. But I have seen Flory play. He is an unbelievable athlete. Run and jump, all those things. He's been compared, frankly, by people who should know, to Bill Russell.
Interesting.
As an athlete and as a defensive player. His offensive skills are not as developed, but he's got
Yeah.
he is he has a great base from which to develop those offensive skills. And they're not terrible, but they're not nearly what they will be in 2 or 3 years. But I have heard that he's an outstanding young man, and but when you watch him play, he's a phenomenal athletic specimen, let's say. But he's also, I think, ranked in the top 3 players in the country.
Yeah, he is.
So he's more than just he's not running track out there. He's playing good basketball. So you'll be able to look around the court from the heights of where I will be watching this. But seated around the court will be a who's who of college basketball, very interested in this young man, and that will be fun. And it'll be fun to watch him play. And to watch him play against Ben Davis, who I've not seen, but might be one of the best teams that's ever played in Indiana. They are undefeated and have been in relatively few close games. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot of fun for my wife and I tonight.
All right. Well, the sun has come up for the last 8 days. Coaches get paid to figure things out and make things work. We'll follow that storyline throughout the Gold and Black. We'll be doing that throughout the summer and all the way to next November when that season opens. Okay. Coach, thanks so much. We really enjoyed your expertise, and it's always fun talking hoops from someone that's been there and knows it. The highs and the lows of coaching, and it will be interesting if you love basketball. And a lot of people that watch and listen to do this. As tough as it is for Purdue fans to sometimes they want to turn off the NCAA tournament. I get it after the Boilermakers are eliminated. But there's some interesting basketballs to be played, and maybe some things that will be instructional in terms of how the Boilermakers will be playing down the road. So thanks again.
It certainly brought back memories for me of 1988. Being on the front row with a team that was a number 1 seed, and as I recall, 2, 3, 4, and 5 had gotten beaten before the Sweet 16, playing a team that we had beaten by almost
29 points.
29, I know, yeah.
Who's counting?
That was a very difficult night. And it is etched in my memory. That night, but it happens, it does happen. It is the beauty and it is the horror of basketball. It is what makes it such a beautiful game in my mind, but life goes on, and you do the best you can. I'll make people upset when I say this, but I said it in my notes. But I think Matt Painter is one of the 8 or 10 best coaches in America. And I'll stand by that. And the people that I know who are coaches and who understand basketball generally agree with me on that. So
I think that's right. One of the things I got a kick out of Tom Izzo, and we'll put this to a close after they lost to Kansas State, of all things. I don't know if it's irony, coincidence, or whatever term you want to use. He talked about, Noel had that one bank shot, and of course, Mitch Richmond's bank shot. Purdue fans will never forget that.
Never will I.
Yeah, nor will you, because you were sitting there. I was too. I was not quite as close as you were, but I was behind it. But yeah, that's my point. It is the beauty of this tournament. You have magical plays. You have a guy that in Noel that basically turns an ankle and comes in and plays. That's the story. That's why we love the tournament, and the disappointment's part of it. So, hey, thanks again so much. Thanks to Union Club Hotel and for their support as well. And we will look forward to more of this 2023-24. We don't ever wish when you're coaches in my age, we never wish time away, but basketball will be back. And I have a sense that Purdue will be back and have a very interesting season storyline to go. So again, Coach, thanks again so much. Safe travels tonight and enjoy the hoops.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.